Irwin Allen's show The Time Tunnel only lasted for one season in the late 1960s, but it certainly is beloved by many people from that era. It left its mark on pop culture as one of the best examples of a plot where people travel through time. The series revolves around Project Tick-Tock, an expensive and really top-secret U.S. government program that was funded to build a time machine. When the funding is threatened and is about to run out, the directors of the project jump into the time tunnel to save the project. From that point on, they are bounced between many historical locations and events, from the sinking of the Titanic to the Battle of the Alamo. The show stars James Darren and Robert Colbert and was inspired by the film The Time Travelers. The show ran for one season, a total of 30 episodes from 1966 to 1967. The base for the Project Tick-Tock is a huge hidden underground complex in Arizona, 800 floors deep and employing more than 12,000 specialized personnel. The directors of the project are Dr. Douglas Phillips, played by Robert Colbert, and Dr. Anthony Newman, played by James Darren. The specialists that assist them in their work are Dr. Raymond Swain, played by John Zaremba, and he's an expert in electronics. And then there's Dr. Ann McGregor, played by Lee Merriweather. She's an electrobiologist supervising the unit that determines how much force and heat a time traveler is able to withstand. The series is basically only set 2 years into the future, being that it's set in 1968 and the broadcast was from 1966 to 1967. During a visit to the Project Tick-Tock, Senator Leroy Clark, played by Gary Merrill, lays down an ultimatum to the people employed there. He tells them that they need to send somebody into time and return him during the course of his visit, or their funding will just stop. Tony volunteers for this endeavor, but he is turned down by the project director, Doug Phillips. But he defies this decision, and Tony sends himself into time. Doug follows shortly after, trying to rescue him, but this causes them both to be lost in time travel. The senator that caused this problem returns to Washington with the promise that funding will not be cut off for the project. The stage is set for the progress of the series as Tony and Doug are now blasted into the past and injected into the future. And this causes episodes 2 through 23 to begin with the following narration. 2 American scientists are lost in the swirling maze of past and future ages. During the first experiments on America's greatest and most secret project, the Time Tunnel, Tony Newman and Doug Phillips now tumble helplessly toward a new fantastic adventure, somewhere along the infinite corridors of time. This production used sets and stock footage and props that was left over from a large number of the period dramas of the 20th Century Fox Film Company. They even used black and white shots showing the Titanic sinking in some of their past movies that were tinted for use in the color production. They only had a few actors who were costumed for a given episode, and they interspersed this with cuts of great masses of people that were similar in dress from original features they did. For the pilot episode that they did, a large control room set was built on a soundstage that had a connected long time tunnel that was created using optical matte shots. After this pilot episode was completed, location changes occurred for the production of the series. Colbert and Darren shot their scenes in another studio on the 20th Century Fox backlot, or on location, while those who portrayed the time tunnel personnel all had their scenes done on a revised, smaller time tunnel control room because when they moved, the soundstage was actually a smaller soundstage than they used during the original pilot episode. Now, Irwin Allen's science fiction stuff is usually just full of errors in fact and in continuity, in that he really didn't care about that at all. He just wanted to create a great science fiction project. And in some cases, continuity was lost, and so was history rewritten. In the premiere episode, Rendezvous with Yesterday, Captain Smith of the Titanic is called Malcolm, when historically his name was Edward. A short teaser from next week's episode was shown at the end of each episode as Doug and Tony arrive at their next destination. There was one episode with an intriguing teaser that did not have to do with the next episode. In episode 3's ending teaser, it has a scene where Tony lands 10 years before 1968 in the desert at the time tunnel complex. He tries to tell Doug that he works there and that he knows him. Nothing more was made of this. The same technique was used in other Irwin Allen shows. Most of the episodes involved the capture and detention of Doug and Tony, or both of them at the same time, and their escape, their recapture, and their escape again before they move on to the next episode. Almost all of the location shooting was filmed in and around Southern California. Now, this causes the scenes in different parts of the country or the world to have the same general hilly landscape with arid type trees and brush typical to that local region where filming occurred. Most of the episodes place Tony and Doug in stories that can be set with a historical context and not a future event. Now, it's been said that during the time that the show ran, there were a lot of history teachers that used the show to stimulate interest in their students. This is a way that they made their kids in their class love history. They added a science fiction twist to this. Many of the classes sent in fan mail to actress Lee Merriweather and revealed this to them. The producers had no idea that this was actually going on. John Williams composed the theme song to the show. Today we know John Williams as the legendary composer who's been nominated for numerous Academy Awards. Back in 1966, he was known as Johnny Williams. At the time of its production, which was 1966 to 1967, this series was the most expensive television show ever produced by any studio. The Time Tunnel Complex took up 2 huge sound stages at 20th Century Fox. Now, this TV show was critically acclaimed and popular with audiences. The ratings were good, but it had such a massive budget. TV executives told Allen that they would renew the show for another season if he cut the budget by 1/3. But Allen refused, so they canceled the show. But the real truth behind it is that there was an executive that actually wanted to replace it with The Legend of Custer. He was hell-bent to replace this science fiction show with a more historical show. Now, one thing you have to realize is that Time Tunnel was on Friday nights, and this is considered a death zone for many shows. Most people don't want to be home on Friday nights. They want to be out doing something, especially a show that would be watched by young people. So when you take that into account, Time Tunnel was performing excellent, but the executives wanted to replace it with The Legend of Custer anyway. They went ahead and canceled the Time Tunnel and inserted The Legend of Custer in its slot, and it lasted only 17 episodes. Ironically, the Time Tunnel did an episode that took place during the Battle of the Little Bighorn, also known as Custer's Last Stand. Now, during this time in 1966, Irwin Allen was one of the biggest names in television. He had already pioneered science fiction hits like Lost in Space and Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, so he basically decided to put another program on the air about time travel. Compared to the multiple season runs of his other shows, Time Tunnel makes it his shortest lived series. Due to the cancellation of the series after one season, Doug and Tony never returned home. It's said that if the show had been renewed for another season, Irwin Allen was planning to have the time tunnel finally bring them home, and the new scripts would have them going into the time tunnel each week to fix wrongs that happened in history, much like that of the TV show Quantum Leap in 1989. What a great show this was, and I'll tell you, this show has an absolute cult following. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.